Recorded Books and One Click Digital present The First Mountain Man, Preacher's Bloodbath, by William W. Johnstone, with J. A. Johnstone. Narrated by Jack Garrett. Chapter 1. The man burst out of the brush, eyes wide with terror as he ran, arms pumping, legs moving so fast they were almost out of control. Every few steps he twisted his head to glance wide-eyed behind him, as if Old Scratch, the devil himself, was behind him, closing in. Might as well have been. Based on his appearance, the terrified man looked like he shouldn't have been scared of anything. He was tall and rugged, with broad, powerful shoulders that strained the buckskin shirt he wore. His bearded, weather-beaten face showed that he had spent a lot of time on the frontier. He had 2 flintlock pistols, a tomahawk, and a sheathed knife tucked into the sash around his waist, and he carried a long-barreled rifle. A powder horn and a full shot pouch bounced against his hip as he ran. He was armed for bear, as the old saying went. But it wasn't a bear that was after him. Even as terrible an engine of destruction as one of those creatures could be, what pursued the trapper was worse. As he started up a bare, rocky slope, he lifted his frenzied gaze and saw a clump of boulders above him. If he could get in among those rocks, his pursuers couldn't come at him all at once. At least he would be able to put up a fight, for a while anyway. His heart slugged harder as he increased his pace. He heard them howling as they crashed through the brush behind him, like a pack of wolves they were. Sometimes he could face down wolves and make them retreat if he didn't show any fear. That wasn't going to work. His pursuers were worse than wolves. With enough of a lead, he lunged into the clump of boulders and turned. His pursuers had reached the edge of the brush, charged into the open, and started up the slope after him. They wore buckskin leggings and tunics, and had large necklaces of thick leather decorated with small, shiny rocks draped around their shoulders. They carried war clubs and spears, and looked like they knew how to use them. A man in the rear of the party, urging the others on, was dressed similarly, but also sported a headdress styled to look like an eagle's beak. A pair of actual eagle's wings, stiffened so they would remain spread out, was attached to a harness strapped to his back. He carried a spear and shook it in the air as he shouted at his companions. The trapper flung his rifle to his shoulder. He would have liked to ventilate that eagle-wearing varmint in the back, but he couldn't get a clear shot at the man. He settled for drawing a bead on one of the warriors in front and pressed the trigger. The rifle boomed, and the target went over backwards as the heavy lead ball smashed into his chest. The war chief, or whatever he was, yelled louder. The trapper set the empty rifle close enough that he could snatch it up again and use it as a club, and drew both pistols. Already loaded, all he had to do was pull back the hammers as he planted himself in the narrow opening between 2 boulders. 3 of the attackers flung spears at him. He ducked one, and the other 2 bounced off the rocks. The leading edge of the charge was only about 20 feet away. He leveled both pistols and pulled the triggers. The barrels gushed smoke and flame. 2 more attackers went down, and the thunderous explosion of the shots made the others pause for a second, long enough for the trapper to dart back a few feet, drop the pistols, and snatch the knife and tomahawk from his belt. The gap between the boulders was so narrow, only 1 man at a time could get through it. Of course, the attackers could stand off a ways and chuck spears at him, but the odds of hitting him were small, and soon they would be weaponless. Through the opening, he saw his enemies hesitate, even though their leader was still behind them, exhorting them on. A grin stretched across the trapper's whiskery face. He had already killed 3, and was confident he would take more of them with him when he crossed the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?